we went through the summer, the issues cropped up with Rolling Hills about restroom facilities in one of the shelters. And at the last review on September 13th of this year, the council moved that staff bring back all of the old conditions for review. There's really no new motion being offered to the council, just information given, and we're here to answer questions and see what you all think.
I even hesitate to ask, but someone has to bring it up and get it over with once and for all. Are we ever going to have to discuss again with these owners the whole idea of restrooms and shelters and all that stuff, or do they get it?
Well, I know the owner's representative is here this evening, so
just so the owner is aware that, at least from my perspective, it was ridiculous that we had to go through all that nonsense about that, and anybody with any common sense and decency wouldn't have taken them out. So I'm presuming we don't have to revisit common sense and decency with these people again. And it won't be fun if we do, from my standpoint. Maybe I need a real reassurance from the owner's representative that they get it. I don't want to waste time, but I would like to have them tell me.
Get your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tom DeVink. I'm the attorney for Rolling Hills of Maplewood. I want to start by defending my client a little bit here on the toilet issue, because I think there was a fair amount of miscommunication on that issue. So the record's clear. My client bought this park when both toilets in each shelter had been closed up and shut down. So they were not operating sanitary facilities at the time of the purchase. So to the extent that someone has mentioned that my client, is the one responsible for the toilets being closed off, that's not the case. That's the way my client came to the property. At the last city council meeting, subsequently, my client determined these cannot be rehabilitated. They needed to be removed to make the area sanitary. I informed, consequently came to our attention that that was the wrong move. And so my client did install a brand new toilet and sink at the south shelter, and that's been accomplished. And certainly, my apologies if there was a miscommunication on that issue, but that's the timeline of what transpired. Certainly with the existing sink.
I don't want to belabor this because it's really been way too long spent on this to begin with, but I know I'm not the world's most direct person sometimes, but really? They were unsanitary, so they had to remove them. How about reinstalling something better without being prodded? I don't want to belabor this anymore, but let's not play lawyerese games. I don't really care what you didn't or didn't know. Your client owns a park, and I am simply asking that from now on, actually several months ago, forward, a little common sense is engaged in making decisions, and taking out the restroom facilities was anything but common sense, especially when they knew the conversations that had been going on, perhaps a little notice that said we'll be installing new ones. I'm, with all anger intended, I can't believe that your client thinks they have to treat the people who live there like gorillas. Really?
Right.
That's part of the reason they end up here. Just engage in some common sense and decency, and don't play literal games with us. And don't tell me that wasn't a dodgeball game, because it was. We're not going to debate that anymore. It was, and I just don't want to sit here and do that stuff anymore.
Well,
I really don't. And I don't want to hear about how good the parks are. None of that stuff.
Unless you really want to, you'd be better off not to respond to her.
Well,
If you don't even have to defend yourself, I guess go ahead.
I just want the council member Juniman to know that I've heard her. And,
All right. Mr. Falanis.
I'm sure your fees are well earned this evening because it's of no great pleasure to you, I'm sure, to come here and listen to this, but it has been no great pleasure of ours to receive the countless emails and phone calls and staff time responding to those Maplewood residents. And it seems like at the end of the day you have a PR nightmare because good judgment wasn't exercised. And we can debate that, but at the end of the day, what we need to do is take care of our residents, plain and simple. And as an owner of the park, I would think that he would also want to make sure that his tenants are also being taken care of. So, from my understanding, the south area was open and is operational, correct?
Correct.
Is there a plan for the north one to be reopened, or is that not on the table anymore?
we do not have a bid yet for that work.
But the bids are being taken, and there is a plan to reopen that north one. Is that correct?
I have not discussed with my client specifically when that's going to happen, but that is going to happen. I can report back on the time frame to the council.
And so I didn't ask if there is a plan to reopen the north one. Is that what you
Yes.
said? Thank you.
Yes. Explanation. This is a condition that had existed for approximately a decade, and to my knowledge, it had not been something that we had received numerous complaints of from the residents. So it is being addressed, I believe, in a relatively timely fashion.
And I think I said at the very beginning that you have a PR issue because there is a perception by some of the residents that believe that those were operational, and the time frame that you're telling us is different than what we're hearing from those residents. And so that's what I'm talking about. That there is some. There is a perception that at one point both of those were operational and now they're no longer. And so my only question is, I heard you say, I should say, I want to clarify, I asked you, is there a plan to get the north one operational? And you said yes.
Yes.
We just don't know a time frame.
Right, and I had talked with the new regional manager for this area, and he wants me to call him on his cell phone right after the city council meeting, and I'll be doing that. He will.
Kathy?
And I can't find it at the moment. Somewhere here talks about the director of public safety passing on the signage, as I recall, and that was brought up to us as a separate issue by some of the residents, and I just don't know how we. I guess it wasn't defined clearly enough for me to say which signs the director of public safety was supposed to be passing judgment on, and which ones the owners in all their wisdom are passing judgment on. So I don't know. We need a clarification. Because I do know there was some discussion about stop signs that apparently the ownership had no desire to talk about. So.